yeah, most of the time I just hate these people. Like these freaking evil genies who are like, oh, you said that you wanted to be thinner, but I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna make you die. You know, it's like, you know that ain't the fuck what I meant. Hello, everyone. I am crazy. What's up, y'all? How are you doing? How are you feeling? How is life treating you? Welcome back to What You're Reading with Athena. I am Athena, your book-obsessed best friend, and I have been in these pages. Before we jump into the juiciness, before we jump into the thoughts and the feelings that are literature, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and you know what to do. Like, subscribe, turn on your notifications for my channel. I do these. I read books. I tell you what I felt about them. You go, that's interesting. I agree or I disagree. And then we move on. That's how this goes. But in order to be a part of that, you have to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so that we keep going. You know what I'm saying? Keep it going. So take a second to do that. Go ahead. I'm a look away. Y'all did it? It's the button be right down there. It'd be like, subscribe. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Where I left off is with this beautiful book. We're jumping into, this is our first book of the fantasy section of the year. I have quite a few fantasy books, actually, way more than I thought I would have. I kind of lost my mind. But this is our inaugural read, and it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. So I've been sitting with this book for a few weeks, and it's only been a few weeks because life has been insane, so I kept having to come away from it a bit. But y'all, this book is the truth. It did a lot for me. So what is the book about? The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is about a young woman who, in order to avoid becoming an 18th century basic bitch, decides to make a deal with an evil entity who goes all #words matter on her and decides to give her her wish, but with a twist. So she desperately wants freedom. And the way that this evil person, this evil god, decides to give her her wish of freedom is to make it so that no one she meets ever can remember her. So anyone she comes in contact with, they do not remember her at all. Literally, as soon as she's out of their line of sight, a door closes or they go to sleep, they completely forget about her and they're all like, who are you and how did you get in my house? It is rough. Now, when I first read this, I was kind of like, that's awful. Like, that's just terrible. To have no one be able to remember you, that is rough. But then when I started thinking about it, I was like, you know what? There are actually a few times in my life where I wisheth that people wouldn't remember me. There are some cringe times in my life where I was like, this little trickamaroo, evil spell, whatever the hell you want to call it, would have worked for your girl. All right? So I decided to share some of those with y'all. So y'all ready to jump into this list? Let's jump into the list. Number 1. The time I told this dude that I liked a guy in uniform, so he decided to wear his junior ROTC trench coat with the combat boots on our first date. I felt like a prisoner of war, a whole POW in Brooklyn. I was terrified. Number 2, that time that I told Rent-A-Center that I was good for that bedroom set. I was not good for that bedroom set. I didn't know you can get your furniture repoed, but I've learned. That time I followed a girl for a block and ran up on her thinking she was one of my cousins. She wasn't. She was also terrified. So scared. Sorry to that girl. I would have loved for no one to be able to remember me. You understand what I'm saying? Just like, forget I exist. Let me go on ahead and close this door. And when we open it back up, we're going to start fresh. Clean slate, right? So aside from those instances, though, I think it would be awful to not have anyone be able to remember you. Think about it. Your boo, your husband, your wife, whatever, your partner, your parents, your kids, best friends, nobody. You cannot leave an impact. You cannot leave your memory, nothing on anyone. Tough, right? So we're already dealing with some good stuff. We're already dealing with some like juicy material here. So it goes further than that though. What did I like about it? The writing. The writing was so beautiful. Just like y'all know what that means. It was so gorgeous. It was absolutely beautifully written. She truly has a gift. V.E. Schwab has a gift for words, a gift for storytelling that she's, again, I've had only a few times in my past that authors have made me be like, maybe I'm not a good writer. Like, and reading her writing, it makes me be like, that is leaps and bounds beyond what I could ever imagine someone being able to do. And it just always made me think of authors always say that it takes a long time to complete these books and they spend years with it. But I felt like with this book, you can really tell how much time she spent with it. You can tell that she considered every scene, every word, every emotion she wanted to convey, every movement that she described. Everything. You were just like, oh my God, you can freaking tell she paid attention to every single detail because all of it was just absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to share a few of those. Like literally, if I wanted to share how beautiful her writing was, I would just sit here and read this book to you for the next 6 hours, but I'm not going to do that. So what I have done is pulled out just a couple of quick quotes that really stuck with me. These are just a few of them. I could pull so much more, but we got stuff to do. I got kids. Okay, so this was very early on in the book. This is on page 35 if you ever wanted to kind of find this quote and pull it out. But we're speaking from Addie's point of view, okay? So, it's not holding a point of view, sort of, whatever. Let's just move on. It says, what she needs are stories. Stories are a way to preserve oneself, to be remembered and to forget. So, like, that's beautiful. I was like, oh my God, that is the truth. That is the truth. And it's so simple. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really have like a pet peeve about writers who kind of take it too far and who think that wordplay, like really complicated sentences, plays on words is what kind of makes a story or makes you a writer. But V.E. Schwab is great at showing that you can really use very simple words to convey such strong emotion. So there's nothing crazy here, but it's just stories are a way to preserve oneself, to be remembered and to forget. And I was like, yes. I love that. Moving on. Here's another one I'll share with you. Turning through these pages, I feel like I'm in church when they be like, turn to Romans chapter 2, blah, blah, blah. And you're like flipping through, trying to be a good Christian and get to the verse in the book before they start reading. I never made it. I never got there before they started reading it. Anyway. Okay, this is on page 179. Addie's throat tightens. Do you think a life has any value if one doesn't leave some mark upon the world? Remy's expression sobers, and he must read the sadness in her voice, because he says, I think there are so many ways to matter. He plucks the book from his pocket. These are the words of a man, Voltaire, but there are also the hands that set the type, the ink that made it readable, the tree that made the paper. All of them matter, though credit goes only to the name on the cover. I mean, like, can we? Yes. And that's what I love so much about, like, creativity, and she touches on it so beautifully. And it's just like, whenever I see any work of art, I always think of all the people who had to touch it or all the people who had to have some part in it. And that's why I love, people always ask me why I read when I read books, I read the entire book. I read like from the front cover. I look at like who published the book. I want to read like the front where all the press imprint and all that stuff. I want to know all of that. I read all of it. In the back, I go all the way to the acknowledgments. I want to know every person who influenced the author, who contributed to the book, who made it possible, because they all had a part in bringing this thing to us. So it's so beautiful, and I love that she touched on it here in this scene and kind of put words to it. And it was just another moment where I was like, so full off of this book. So I'm going to share one more, and then we're going to move on, because I think you're getting a point, right? I think you're seeing it. I think you're understanding. Okay, so it says, Addie frowns. I guess so, she says, but I don't know. History is something you look back on, not something you really feel at the time. In the moment, you're just living. I didn't want to live forever. I just wanted to live. So Addie, because of this curse, she has lived a really, really long life. So when she made this deal with the devil, they didn't put any sort of time frame on it. It was just until she was ready, until she was done living and she was ready to be through with it. So this the devil, this evil entity who made this deal with her, assumed that she would, I played a trick on you, I twisted your words, and I'm giving you this kind of agonizing existence. You're not going to want to live for very long. You're gonna give this shit up within like 10 years, 5 years, a year. Like, you're gonna be done with it. But Addie, through living, she's so full off of just like the act of being alive that she doesn't want to stop. Even though it's painful to have her family forget her, even though it's painful to kind of go through all of that, she still like finds beauty in nature, in observing people, in traveling to different places. She's able to kind of carve a life from that, and she's still able to have interactions with people. So even though they don't remember her, she still is able to find some joy or some fulfillment in just these like interactions that she can have with people. So sis winds up living hundreds of years longer than even one of them intended her to, and she's still going strong when we pick up the story kind of in present day. So yeah, just having, that's a question. It's like these questions come up throughout the book, but she puts the answers to them in there for you. Because I was like, what must be her perspective being alive for 300 years? She's seen it all. She's seen all the wars. She's seen all of the trends and the comings and goings, the evils and the joys of life. Like, what does she feel about it? And then she, in saying that, she didn't necessarily consider herself as viewing history. She was just living, and that's the truth. Like, even now, like, people look back on this time that we lived through, this crazy ass pandemic and everything that went on, and they'll be like, oh, this is, history that they're studying. But for us, we're just living it. We're just trying to make it through our day-to-day life. We're not like, what are the implications of this, or how did that affect that? Nah, I'm just hoping they open this school so these kids can go back to school. That we're just living. So the story was absolutely beautiful because of the writing, because of the delivery. Like, this is one of those books where you can pull quotes from. You will have so many great quotes to just pull and use and that like resonate with you. Ciao. Loved it. My God. Second thing that I loved about it, the love story that was included in this. It was so unique and so fulfilling to kind of see this love story. First of all, I didn't expect or know. I assume most stories have some sort of love element in it, but I didn't assume that because of the premise of this girl's life that she would be able to have love. But she does find a way to have love. I'm not going to spoil that for you. That's something that you'll discover as you read the book. But it's beautiful because it transcends the typical like lustful way that we're given love stories in books. Typically it's like hot guy, doom doom doom, hot girl, sex. You know? Typical is boring is like, come on now. It explores how love fills needs and satisfies the most vulnerable parts of us. So it was way beyond the physical, way beyond the like butterflies, you know, kissy. It was just like, I need what you have more than anything else in the world, you know? God, it was so good. It was so good. I loved it. Third thing, I just enjoyed the book traveling through places and time. The girl was everywhere. I mean, she was in France. She was in, of course, the U.S. The book actually most of it took place in New York City, here in Brooklyn. So I was like, ooh, we seeing some cute things, and I'm noticing some places that they're mentioning. So that was great. But as you can imagine, throughout her 300 years, she traveled all over the place. So we got to kind of see those places during different times and see her kind of going through different situations. So that was just really great, being able to travel the world pretty much through this book, which is why I love books in the first place. You just get to experience so freaking much. So loved that. Fourth and final, I really enjoyed the quote unquote antagonist in this book. The devil, the evil entity, the dark god, the darkness, whatever you want to refer to him as. He's referred to as a couple different things in the book, but he was just a dope figure, and he was so complex. I mean, it wasn't just like I hated him. I kind of understood him, kind of understood his motives. Yeah, most of the time I just hate these people, like these freaking evil genies who are like, oh, you said that you wanted to be thinner, but I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna make you die. You know, it's like, you know that ain't the fuck what I meant. You know it. But he doesn't. He really, the way that he does it is kind of noble. If I don't know how to explain how it is, but the way he does it, it's kind of like, I'm pushing you to really think more deeply about what you've done and what you're asking for, what you're giving up, that sort of thing. And then there's a lot that goes on between the darkness and Addie as the book goes on. And I loved those chapters. I loved it. Even though it was a lot of the same of them like meeting over and over again, he kind of visited her on the anniversary of her curse every year. And every time they came together, it was explosive. It was some stuff going on. So it was great. Loved it. What didn't I like about the book? So, number one thing I didn't like about it. It was very hard to find something not to like about it. It was so hard. And I sat here and thought about it. And I really had to get into my nitpicky bag in order to pull this out. But, there was one character who was really important to Addie. Her name was Estelle. She was like an elder in her village. I'm not quite sure if she was like an aunt or a grandmother. I'm still kind of unclear on that. So for me, I would have liked, maybe I just missed it, you know, because like I said, I was kind of picking it up and putting it down. Maybe they explained it, but I don't remember it being explained why she was so important or why she had this sort of position in Addie's life. And the whole reason why Addie kind of makes this deal with the devil is because her village is very like, you get married, you have kids, the women don't work, they tend to the house. You know, this is the 1700s. So this other lady, though, as an elderly woman, she seemed to kind of escape that. From what I understand, she didn't have any kids, she didn't have a husband. So I feel like there was more backstory on this figure that Addie really loves, and she keeps coming back throughout the story, like not her physically, but Addie keeps speaking about her and thinking about her. So it's like, if this figure is so important, I would have loved to have just a little bit more backstory about her and how she came to be, just to fill her out a little bit more. But again, I don't feel like I lost anything because of it. It's just literally the story is so good that I'm now wanting to explore like all these different characters and kind of get to know them more. So maybe like a little chapter on Estelle, or something else about her would have been like a cute little nugget to read. But again, that's me being unbelievably nitpicky, completely in my nitpick bag. And now I'm gonna get out the nitpick bag, you know what I'm saying? So that was literally it. I have nothing else. I got nothing else for you. I have nothing else bad to say or anything that disappointed me about this book. Overall, I give this book 5 stars. 5-star read. It is a must read. I feel like this book should be like taught in school. I feel like in English classes and, creative writing classes, I feel like this book can be held up as like, this is an example of telling a story. This is an example of writing. This is an example of taking care of your reader, of your characters. Like, I want to know how do you do? How do you do? I want to know. I'm now that I'm done with the book, I'm literally gonna go pick up her other stuff. I have to read it. I want to see interviews. I want to see her speak. I want to hear her talk. Like, I need to know, how do you do? Because this book satisfied so much in me. The book was a beautiful experience. It was so original, and I am so grateful that she was able to bring this idea that she had in her mind to fruition and share it with us. I feel honored. I'm happy, so happy, beyond happy that it exists. I feel like this is definitely a book. I'm not really a rereader of books. I don't reread a lot of books, but I feel like this is one that I will sit down and kind of read again to be able to, I'm sure I'll pick up on something else different or connect with something else the second time around. So read this book. Like, usually I say, read it if you want, don't read it. You just read it. Give it a moment of your time. Give it a few days of your time. And I feel like you'll definitely enjoy it. Okay? You know what we're gonna do next. We're gonna jump into these reviews and see what people thought about it. So now I'm nervous. This is when I get nervous because I feel so strongly about this book and I love it so much that I'm afraid to read the 1-star reviews because I feel like it's gonna make me look stupid. They're gonna like point out some glaring issue that I totally missed or something or another, but I don't care. To each his own. All right, y'all. So this is where I usually do the 5-star reviews, but this video is already long as hell, and I know that y'all got things to do. So I'm gonna skip over those because everybody felt the same way I did in the 5-star reviews. So I saw a lot of reviews like this one and like this one where people were crying and gushing and wondering how did she write such a beautiful book. So we're just gonna skip all that. If you want to go in and read, hop your little ass over to Goodreads and read the 5-star reviews and hear more people who are like-minded like myself speak about this book. So instead, we're gonna skip that part and we're gonna jump right into the good, juicy 1-star reviews and see what the people hated about the book, okay? Y'all ready? Let's go. I'm literally starting to sweat because we have to go into these 1-stars, and I know I'm going to be like, but let's see. Maybe that's what I said. Maybe something I missed. Maybe, there's something going on here that I could be like, oh, y'all right. Okay, so this 1-star review, I'm not even gonna freaking read this because it's so stupid. I would like to start this by saying that I did read an advanced reader copy of the book, but as always, the thoughts I will express further in the review are all mine. Thanks, sir. I'd like to start by saying I think it's highway robbery to ask someone to pay an adult hardcover price for what reads more like an extending writing exercise than it does a plot. While there are certainly stakes that exist in the novel, more so in the last 75% than anywhere else, there is no real plot. Instead, the story spins its wheels and devotes more pages to character backstory than is needed. in part because so much of that backstory is spent defining the bounds of a curse. I feel most readers understand after the initial deal sequence that extended looks at... My God. There's not a period to be found. Nary a period to be found in here. Partially because the book could never seem to settle on who Luke was. At some points in the novel, Luke was the devil, but at other points, he was an old guard, the darkness himself, seemingly obsessed with this little white girl from France for no discernible reason. Addie does take some time to address this latter point late in the novel, but even then, I'm putting in words that he didn't. But even then, it felt something that was too little too late after being asked to suffer for so long. Okay, so I can't really comment on the pricing of a book. I mean, I don't even know what I paid for it. Okay, it was $27, it says. I don't know, it's a thick book. I don't know. He's mad about how much it costs, which may or may not be. I really don't know that much about pricing of adult books versus YA, or I don't know. But whatever. Most of it is spent on backstory. I'm not we needed it. You can't have a person live for 300 years and then not devote time to it, to explaining what happened to her in those 300 years, what she experienced to kind of bring her to the person she is today and kind of what she's going through. I thought everything that she experienced was really interesting. And it built on the dynamic. What he criticized later about not understanding why this guy, Luke, the devil, the darkness, was obsessed with her is explained in all of those sequences that we went back to over the 300 years. So you started to understand why they kind of built this connection, why the things that were happening is because of what they've been through. So you're on one hand saying that you don't want the backstory, and then you're criticizing not understanding. But if you would have taken the backstory and really dug into it, you would have understood. Whatever. I don't agree with any of this. But yeah, okay. He's saying it's long too. I didn't think it was that long. But all right. This person gave it 1.5 stars. 0.5 is for that great idea behind the book. Ugh. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was one of the most anticipated and popular books of 2020. The premise, very promising. Imagine this, an immortal girl, we already know. Blah, 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 blah. Imagine what historical events she would have been able to witness, what role she could have played, the ways she could have helped, or the 3 centuries old romance with the devil with whom she made her Faustian deal. But no, it's mostly about Addie sleeping around and whining. Ooh,
shots fired.
And then meeting a guy who is not the devil and loving him. Don't let that false advertising fool you. Oh my God. I originally gave this book 2 stars, but I couldn't name a single thing that I liked about it. What's an imaginative idea without a solid plot to bring it to life? Nothing. Oh, okay. It took her 10 years to learn writing and reading. 10 damn years? She knew the basic letters, so how? So now she's criticizing. So in the book, first of all, okay, I'm not reading anymore. First of all, the book took place in the 1700s, all right? She was not taught to read. She didn't know how to read. And she's teaching herself while having to... It's not like she's going to the local Y and taking GED courses or something. Like, she's having to steal books. Like, the book that she got was, given to her by this guy that she, sort of met up with. That was the, first book that she was even able to, get her hands on. She can't... she doesn't own anything. She doesn't have any money. So everything that she gets, she has to steal. And then she's going to steal something and try to make sense of it somehow. You know, it's like, are we really judging the amount of time that it spent her to learn how to read? And literally, V.E. Schwab spent like maybe 2 sentences on that. That wasn't even a huge point in the book. It was just kind of like, it took her a while to learn how to read. And then we moved on. It wasn't, so the fact that that bothered her enough to be able to put it in a review, why she took so long to read. Well, damn, girl. I don't get how they're saying that there's not a plot. There's not a plot. There's definitely a plot. Do we have some meandering that happens? Do we have some backstory, some fill-in, some information for information's sake? Well, it's a little bit that happens. But I think I enjoyed all of that. I thought it was all amazing to read. It didn't feel like a waste of my time. I feel like a lot of writers do that in books. A lot of books that I've read have these little things that you're kind of like, what did that have to do with all of it? And so while it didn't necessarily move the plot forward, it definitely was more character information. And it made a lot of what happened in the end make more sense. I think it heightened the stakes for me. It heightened the stakes of what was happening. Like everything that you read that seemingly didn't have anything to do with the plot, you know, it's kind of like when you learn what you meet someone in person, right? And you have this idea of who you think they are, just based on where they are in life, how you met them, the scenario that you guys are in. But as you're talking to that person, they let you know a little bit more about their life. They tell you that they traveled here, that they lived overseas for a couple of years. They tell you that they were married and divorced 2 or 3 times. Or maybe they have a kid that they put up for adoption or whatever. And it's like, no, it doesn't necessarily change what's going on right here and right now. You're still my coworker and we still got to get the spreadsheet done. But it definitely makes them make a little bit more sense. It makes you a little bit more invested in them because you feel like maybe a little bit more of a connection. And so things in the future, you can kind of be like, oh, that's why she has that like kind of accent because she lived here for like 10 years, you know? And so while it's not like super, like I'm saying, super, super important, it definitely helps. And it definitely is interesting. So I get it. I think what I'm seeing is that some people are super plot driven and they want it to be like boom, 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 boom. For me, not so much that. I am about pacing. I am a stickler for pacing, and this book had really good pacing for me. So I didn't necessarily need to have, you know, go, 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 move on to the next thing. I liked the time that the author spent just having them explore each other and just enjoy each other and explore the city and experience new things. Like, that was great to read. But I get it. If you're a person who's like, action, move forward, let's get this plot going, you're probably going to be like, this is boring as hell. But it wasn't for me. I thought it was beautiful. So, okay. Those are the reviews. That's the people have spoken. Okay, so as I said, I usually say go get the book, don't get the book. I'm not giving you a choice. You're gonna go get this book. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. My first 5-star, I think it is my first 5-star of the year. So, woohoo! You did that, girl. You did that, Victoria. Moving on. We are moving on to our second book in our fantasy endeavor. And I'm so happy to announce, drum roll please, the next book that we'll be getting into is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Isn't that a nice cover? I like it. So I don't quite remember why I picked up this book. I chose all these books months ago. Don't really remember much about it, so we're just going to dive right in. All right? So, give me my dramatic stuff. Thank you. Let's see what this is about. Yadriel has summoned a ghost, and now he can't get rid of him. When his traditional Latinx family has problems accepting his gender, Yadriel becomes determined to prove himself a real brujo. With the help of his cousin and best friend Marissa, he performs the Quince's ritual himself, and then sets out to find the ghost of his murdered cousin Miguel and set it free. However, the ghost he summons is actually Julian Diaz, the school's resident bad boy, and Julian is not about to go quietly into death. He's determined to find out what happened and tie up some loose ends before he leaves. Left with no choice, Yadriel agrees to help Julian so that they can both get what they want. But the longer Yadriel spends with Julian, the less he wants to let him leave. Oh, is he gonna fall in love with a ghost? Is he gonna be like, oh, ghost daddy? Okay. The stunning debut novel. It's a debut novel. Awesome. I love reading debut novels. It makes me all fuzzy inside. Okay. This seems really, really interesting. I love the diversity. I love that we're getting, this seems like an LGBTQ plus story. So I'm into that. I love it. Let's see. Have you read this? Have you read The Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas? Where he gonna get him a ghost zaddy? If you have, drop a comment below. Let me know what you thought of it. What was your take? I'll read this and get back to you and let you know what I thought as well. Okay? It's been a minute, so au revoir. Until I see you guys next time. I love you all. Have a great week. Bye-bye.